welcome to Prime Property, your weekly real estate reckoner. I'm Nayantara Rai and this is what we have on the show today. Get an exclusive peek into what Donald Trump and family are planning for luxury real estate in India. The flamboyant Donald Trump Jr. speaks to Prime Property. Competition between DLF and Unitech hotting up, both trying to outdo each other with their large malls opening bang opposite each other in Noida. Donald Trump redefined luxury real estate in America, be it housing, offices, retail, casinos and even golf courses. He and his son, Donald Trump Jr. now have their eyes set on India. They entered India late last year with the residential Trump Towers in Pune in collaboration with Panchil Realty. These 22-story high twin towers will have 44 apartments, each spread across 6,094 square feet. These 5-bedroom single condos will be accessed by private elevators and be fully automated with iPads. 15 apartments have already been sold and today fetch a price of nearly 14 crore rupees apiece. Health Street and Bollywood actor John Abraham will run the fitness center. Earlier this week, I caught up with Don Jr. to get an insight into what this flamboyant family of billionaires is planning for India. I began by asking him why he's such an India bull.
Well, I think it can be very important when you look at the growth that's happening there, especially in the high-end sector, where luxury is a relatively new product. In India, I think it can be very big. When you talk about the population, when you talk about the population trends, when you talk about Indians as expats living abroad, I think there'll always be a very strong connection to any group of individuals that are doing very well for themselves for a luxury brand such as ours. So it's a very important area for me. It's a very important market, one that I've spent a lot of time really getting to learn and know over the last few years, and it's something we're very excited about.
You know, you're on record to say India will be in your top 3 markets outside of the US, but when do you see that becoming a reality?
Yeah, I think that will depend on a lot. I think that depends on the world. I think that depends on growth. For us, because we're so luxury focused, we can't just hop in and do any deal that makes sense. We have to really be careful about targeting, partnering with the right people within a marketplace to build something that's really a world-class facility. I think in India you see a lot of that growth. That's certainly starting to happen in Mumbai and Delhi. I think some of the other sub-markets that are a little bit smaller, you're starting to even see that there as well. So I think that really for the future can be an incredible amount of growth. And when you look at the populations and just the trend towards the higher end demographics these days, I think it could be perhaps bigger than one of the 3rd largest markets for us in time. I think that's going to develop. A lot will happen and depend on what happens in the rest of the world. But it's a very exciting market for us, one that we're really focused on. I've spent a lot of time there myself. Become very friendly with a lot of the local developers and really gotten to know them well and see what they're doing. And it's a very impressive place to be.
Don Jr., for India becoming even bigger than the top 3 markets, you will have to choose the right local partners. What are the attributes that you will look for in these potential partners?
Well, I think you'll see a lot of the normal catchphrases that you'll see that probably were very lacking in the market a few years ago. Transparency, the track record. Those things are starting to develop. They're starting to get a lot better in those markets for us. If we're going to align our brand with someone, we want to make sure that we know what's going on. We want everything to be above board. And we also want someone that has a proven track record of developing these kind of products. It's not easy to build very luxury. It's not easy to build very high end if you're trying it for the first time. So if you're a developer that's done sort of middle tier things, haven't really experimented in that high end sector, that's a little bit tougher for us to get comfortable. So we're looking with people with real proven track records. We've met with many, if not most, of those guys, and then trying to find the right project within their portfolios that really fits for us.
Okay, Don Jr., you say you've met most of the developers here in India. Which are the guys that you've been most impressed with?
Well, I'll tell you once I have deals done with them. Obviously, we're working with Panchil in Pune. We're talking with a lot of the major groups as we speak. I'll let you know who I'm most impressed with, and you'll be able to tell by who it is based on who I'm signing a deal with.
Okay, so we'll wait for that, but do you have any deals on the table right now?
Yes, we do. We're working on numerous deals, actually. So I'm hoping that I can announce a couple of them in the next few weeks, but we'll see how that goes.
Fair enough, but how many of these deals are we likely to see in 2013? 1, 2, 3, 4?
I wish I could do that. If I could do that, we'd all be very impressed. So again, for every deal that we do, we see 100 deals that we don't, and we throw in the garbage right off the bat because they don't meet our standard, they don't meet the level of expectations in terms of the development team that are there. So we're working on a couple right now that are sort of in the term sheet stage. If we can get past some of that, we may be able to have announcements imminently, but again, a lot's going to depend on what we get to the final brass tacks, so to speak, in these deals. The devil's always in the details, and so once we get there, we'll have a better understanding of where we'll be in the future.
But Don Jr., will all of these deals be the kind you've already signed with Panchsheel Realty that is for licensing and branding? Is that your business model for India? Are we ever going to see equity participation by the Trumps?
I think like any market that's new for us, we are great developers, but we also don't have the hubris to assume that we can just step into a foreign market with different rules, different regulations, different players, and say, hey, we're going to do this all by ourselves. So initially the focus is on really partnering with someone who understands those markets, working on the license, getting familiar with that. But again, as those relationships grow, as they ferment, as they really start to become good friends, I think the possibility for investment in actual equity dollars is very great. I think it's a very good market for us for that in time. Again, though, I think it has to be done on a basis of friendship and trust after having a track record, after having experience within the market. I think it would be very naive, and we've seen plenty of American developers try to do that, try to go into the market and they say, I have $1 billion I'm going to put into India, and it doesn't often work out all that well for them, whether it's India or frankly any of the emerging markets. So for us, it's about getting familiarity with the market, building the brand within that market, and then we'll make those decisions in time, but I hope so.
And will you look at all segments of real estate, be it residential, hospitality, commercial, or even golf for that matter?
I think the answer to all of that is potentially yes. Obviously, a big focus of ours is the residential. That's sort of where we cut our teeth in development when my father started the company 30-plus years ago. That said, myself, my siblings, the whole family has really been focused on growing our hotel management company. We've won some of the best accolades all over the world. We've been recognized as having some of the greatest hotel assets anywhere in the world, both as a management company as well as an owner-operator. And so that's going to be a very big focus for us. So hotel, resort, there is the potential, eventually for commercial as well. And you mentioned golf. I mean, that's something that we're probably one of the foremost developers in ultra-luxury golf anywhere in the world. When you look at the track record of what we've created as of late, the tournaments that we've hosted, the world-famous golf courses that we've either built, developed ourselves, or bought and acquired over the last few years, I think our golf portfolio is very impressive. And as that becomes a bigger sport and more important to the luxury demographic in India, I think that's another focus. So we're very fortunate as a real estate company, unlike many American real estate companies that specialize in, I do apartments, commercial, retail. We actually have a very good understanding of all of those different markets and all of those things, and probably can implement that with our brand in India, and would look forward to doing that.
Okay, so the sense I'm getting is that you are looking at the golf market in India. Is the Indian market mature enough for you to open golf courses here?
I think the market's very young in the golf world. That said, I think the demand is probably rising enough. And what's happened for us in America, which tends to be very, frankly, overbuilt with golf, there's a big difference between average golf course or a housing golf course and something that's done as an ultra-luxury course. Some of our courses that are rated in the top 100 in the world, Scotland opened up to a top 10 course anywhere in the United Kingdom, and we had just finished building it, and that's throwing away venues that were, open championship venues and these sort of things. So we really understand luxury golf. So I think anything that we do would probably end up being the best course in the market, and therefore, even if it's not the biggest industry, if it's not the biggest game in the market, I think we would still draw from the most elite and the people who are most into that sport and be able to get them into it and get them to join, and et cetera, as we have over and over again in the United States market, and even markets that may be oversaturated with golf.
Okay, so maybe one of those imminent deals you spoke about could revolve around golf. Now I want to talk to you about geography. I'm guessing obviously the Trumps will look at announcing projects in Delhi and Mumbai, but which are the other cities you're looking at? Are you also perhaps, for example, looking at a Goa with all its resorts and the fact that you can have casinos there? So will we see, for example, an Indian Atlantic city in Goa?
Well, I mean, we've looked in other markets. We've seen projects there. I think for an opening foray into the market, the kind of Mumbai, Delhi, and their sub-markets are probably most important for us in making the initial push into those markets. But again, you mentioned Goa, there's Hyderabad, there's many other, Bangalore, there's many other markets I think that we'd be looking at in time. but it may be a little bit early now. But again, that said, for us, we're looking for the best of the best. If we find the best property, the best location within a market, and a developer with the track record to be able to do something like that, we'd still be very interested. But the initial push is always towards the primary market.
Okay, so those are the cities that hold your interest. Now, late last year, we saw you announce the Trump Towers in Pune with Panchsheel Realty. What's the response been like? Has it instilled confidence in the Indian market?
Very. I mean, we haven't even officially launched. We've done some, sort of a minor pre-sales. We haven't even officially launched. We're already over 35% reserved, and at numbers that have been ever escalating. So I think that's a very good sign for us in the market, considering, again, we haven't even gone officially to the open market. It's been more the friends and family, people that they've done business with before. So I think the demand for a Trump product, for the luxury product that we're creating there, has been very high. And again, we're already seeing price escalations even in pre-sale, so that tends to be a very good sign for what our brand will likely do in the market.
But what kind of a price escalation exactly?
Approximately 25%.
Okay, but this 25% price escalation has been for, what you describe as friends and family. So at what price will the Trump Towers in Pune be launched for the public?
Well, obviously, it's sort of the very high end of the given marketplace. Because we haven't gone to market yet, I'm going to hold off on that. I'm going to let them decide whether they want to talk about it or not, because we haven't officially even launched yet. So it's still very early. We've been very happy with the price increases that we've seen. Definitely commanding the highest premiums anywhere in Pune, but I'll let them go to the details if they want to talk about that or not.
Fair enough. We'll get Panchsheel Realty on the show when they finalize the pricing of the Trump Towers. But Don Jr., you want Indians to pay top dollar for Trump-branded residences. Can you guarantee these Indian buyers that the Trumps will always be involved in all of these projects and all of these buildings that will be announced here in India?
Correct. I mean, ultimately for us, the brand is ever important. It's the most important asset we have. And I think to protect that for the future is very important for us to stay involved. Plus, the condo association, the owners who are actually buying the products want our involvement there, because our involvement translates to their resale values, and whenever, if they're moving on, if they're going somewhere else, if they're buying in another Trump building in time, they want our involvement in that, because maintaining that standard and maintaining the level of luxury that they bought on day one at year 10 is very important to the value of their investment. So it really ends up being a very strong symbiotic relationship between ourselves and ownership in time.
Don Jr., right at the beginning of this interview, you talked about Indians buying Trump properties in America. Are you perhaps looking at setting up sales and marketing offices in India to grow that business?
It's something that we've discussed. We haven't gotten to that point as of yet. It is something that we've discussed. We've partnered with the Tribeca group, colleagues of mine from college and the Wharton School of Finance, who are Indian over there, that are overseeing a lot of the things that we're looking at and making sure some of the diligence that, I can't be there every day. They're overseeing some of these, and we're speaking on a daily basis and observing what they're seeing as trends. So it's definitely something that we've considered into the future, but not something that we've acted on as of yet.
Okay, so that's clearly not on the cards. Don Jr., I want to again specifically ask you about hospitality. Ritz-Carlton will be opening its first hotel in India very soon. Four Seasons, for example, is already here. So, we do have luxury hotels opening in India. But, when I speak to you, I'm kind of getting a sense that you're not that excited by this particular segment of real estate.
Okay. Yes, we have a couple of deals that we're looking at. We've turned down a couple that just weren't really the right location for us. I think generally speaking, I think you're getting some new hotel product. I think there's a lot of product on the market, but it's probably not commensurate with a five-star hotel levels in certainly some of the markets. So it's definitely a market we see a very good possibility for entry. It's something that we're working on and focused on, and so hopefully we'll be able to do that rather soon.
Don Jr., my final question. You're spearheading the Trump organization's foray into India. Was that your idea or your dad's? Also, does Donald Trump still guide the next generation, be it you or Ivanka or Eric?
It's an interesting question, because obviously with him, when we started out, everything was him. I mean, that's basically our real-world education came from our father, and so we've spent a lot of time with that. As we've grown and as we've expanded and gotten bigger and bigger, he's seen what we've been able to accomplish. He's seen what we've been able to do and given us a little bit more autonomy. Obviously, India is a market that I'm focused on very heavily. I speak to him about all the deals and individual components of them, but ultimately we are left to make a lot of our own decisions as it relates to that. He'll have the final say and he'll have intimate knowledge of the deals going forward. but he has given us the autonomy to make a lot of those decisions ourselves. So it's been great to watch. And when he gives you that autonomy, that's probably the ultimate sign of respect for our abilities, because he doesn't do that very easily.
Right, so that was my interview with Donald Trump Jr. You know, you did hear him talk about how one of his buddies from Wharton is the eyes and ears for the Trump family in India. That buddy is Kalpesh Mehta, and his firm Tribeca is the exclusive representative of the Trump organization in India.
First, our job is to help them build their licensing business in India, which means to license their brand to different real estate projects in residential, hospitality, and other subsectors. Our role is to help work with the Trump team to evaluate deal, to work with the various partners to see where Trump makes sense and what deals make sense for Trump, then close these deals, and then obviously stay involved through till the very end of the project, where we're playing the bridge role between Trump's team in New York and the local developers here, getting involved in everything from picking architects and designers to getting involved in design, sales, marketing, PR, etc. Look, what's very important to understand is that we work very closely with our local developer partners here, right? Trump does not necessarily dictate 100% of strategy. I think it's a lot of it is driven by what the local partner wants, what their business needs are. Some people like to do a big bang approach. They want to use the Trump name and really sort of go all out with the marketing, and in that case we will be okay with that approach. In other cases, people want to do more of a pull marketing rather than a push marketing, where they wouldn't even print a brochure necessarily, and it all spreads by word of mouth. And around the world, Trump has sort of used both these strategies, and both work well depending on the size of the project, depending on the location, depending on the ticket size. So I don't think there's a one size fits all.
So I think it's pretty clear we're going to see the Trumps announce new projects, at least in Mumbai and New Delhi over the next few weeks. Besides the Trumps, other giants like Armani, Four Seasons and the Grand Hyatt have unveiled plans for branded residences in India. So this is a segment certainly getting very competitive. On that note, let's slip into a short break. When we return, we'll tell you how two arch rivals, DLF and Unitech, are opening big malls bang opposite each other in Noida. Stay tuned.
Congratulations, Shikhar.